Hello everyone, my name is黄Xiao. In this video, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. I was born in China. I'm a native Mandarin speaker. I've got my bachelor degree and master degree on Chinese language and literature. When I was pursuing my PhD degree on comparative literature and world literature, I was also a part-time Chinese instructor to all of foreign students in Fudan University, Shanghai, China. After graduation, I decided to start an exciting worldwide teaching career. So far, I've already taught Chinese in USA, Europe, and Latin America. Right now, I'm in Mexico. My job title is Chinese Instructor and Scholar and Writer in Residence. I'm working with many universities in Puebla State, Mexico. Besides of teaching and writing, I'm also responsible for organizing all kinds of activities and events relevant to Chinese culture. For example, when it was Chinese New Year, I and all of my students, we celebrated together. We went to the biggest Chinese store here in Puebla City, Mexico. We purchased all kinds of materials to make Chinese decorations, such as Chinese traditional lanterns. We also wrote the big Fu on red paper. We decorated our classrooms, teaching buildings, and also the school dormitory buildings with beautiful Chinese traditional decorations. We made dumplings together. We cooked the fried rice and noodles together. We had dinner together to celebrate this important Chinese festival. It was very interesting. For me, my biggest advantage is that because I've already visited and worked in so many countries, I've already accumulated a lot of abundant teaching experiences. That's why, for me, I could handle very well on different classes, lessons, on different students, at different levels, and from different countries. And also because my major of my PhD degree is comparative literature and world literature, that's why I could use the similar academic way in my Chinese classes, which is the comparison, comparing the similarities and differences between Chinese culture and another culture. For example, here in Mexico, I once guided my students to compare the Chinese food culture with Mexican food culture. Although we all love the same food materials, the original materials to cook food, such as rice and beans, but the cooking ways are very different, and of course, the tastes are different too. So in Mexico, because a lot of people, they love eating salty and spicy food, that's why the rice and beans are also cooked in a salty and spicy way. However, we know in China, we have 八宝饭, the rice with 8 treasures. We have 红豆糕, the pastry of red beans. So in China, we could cook rice in a sweet way. We could prepare rice and beans into, presenting dessert after meals, after dinner. So for me, such comparison could make the students to feel like, all right, so we have something in common. Chinese culture is not a completely strange culture to us, but also you have something new and fresh. We have something in difference. And such comparison can also make the students to have a very strong, very deep impression on the characteristics and personality of Chinese culture, the unique side of Chinese culture. And also, I think it's quite important, sometimes to integrate Chinese culture into another culture, to do some combination, to combine the two cultures together. Perhaps we could create a new culture. And for example, here in Mexico, I once guided all of my students to paint the masks of Peking opera, 京剧脸谱, on their own, but not with watercolors. We used Mexican corns. Yeah, we used Mexican corns to decorate 京剧脸谱, the masks of Peking opera. Here in Mexico, the corns have many different colors. Yellow, white, red, blue, green, purple, black. Yeah, right. So, maize, corns, such food is very important in Mexican food culture. And because of the different colors, that's why here the local artists, they also use the corns to make arte de maíz, which means the corn art. So when my students, they pasted the different colors of corns on the masks of Peking opera, they were combining Chinese culture with Mexican culture. They were combining Chinese art with Mexican art. When they were doing such combination, they were creating something new. So I think it's very significant, it's very meaningful. Another plus of me is that I am happily willing to help all of students. All of students are very precious for me. During the learning process of Chinese language, many students, they might have already created the strong interest in one day I want to go to China to study. One day I want to obtain the Chinese government scholarship. And so I could have enough financial sponsorship to study in China. They have grown such very strong passion, enthusiasm, So I think as a Chinese instructor, it's also my duty to help my students to make their wishes to come true. To apply for the Chinese government scholarship, you need to prepare your application letter. You need someone to write a recommendation letter for you. And you also need to prepare the self-introduction, the presentation. I'm always happy to help my students on such stuff. I'm always happy to help them to make such, studying abroad in China dream come true. And also some students, they want to participate into the Chinese contests, for example, 汉语桥, Chinese language bridge, or some contests of Chinese music, Chinese popular songs, on Chinese debating, and they also need a little bit extra help from their Chinese teachers from their Chinese coaches, instructors, and I'm always there for them. I'm always happy to offer such help, to help my students to become better, to improve themselves. It's my honor to offer such help. The third plus of me is that I am a very patient person. I have enough patience on teaching Chinese language and culture to all of my students. And I always encourage my students to speak as much Chinese as they can in class, also after class. Yeah, right. I always tell my students, don't be afraid of making any mistakes in my class. It won't be a problem if you make any mistakes, but it's going to be a problem if you just close your mouth and you don't want to speak Chinese. That's going to be a problem. And when I correct my students, I have my own way. I call it as sandwich way. So let's say if you make some mistakes in my class, it's okay. Firstly, I'm going to find which part you've done very well. I'm going to compliment on you. I'm going to praise you. And then I'm going to point out which part you've done is wrong, is incorrect. At last, I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to praise you again. So it's like a sandwich, your weak points are going to be wrapped inside of a sandwich. You're going to feel very comfortable to take, all right, now I'm going to improve myself, even though I've already made some mistakes, but I believe that I'm going to become better. I have such confidence. I'm going to give you such confidence. Alright, so you're going to feel very comfortable to taking Chinese courses in my lessons, in my classroom, in my classes, because I will never ever embarrass my students when they've made some mistakes. So I think, yeah, right. Now I want to say something about the significance of teaching Chinese as a foreign language. I think the significance of teaching Chinese as a foreign language is very big, it's very meaningful, because it's not just about teaching a foreign language, teaching language skills, teaching the students how to speak, read, write Chinese. It's also about, I am introducing a different culture to the students. I am trying my best to cultivate my students into global citizens. Alright, I'm teaching my students to try their best to open their mind and heart to respect, to understand, to embrace, to accept another culture. And one day they're going to become more flexible people, more tolerant people. They're going to have more positive attitudes on different cultures. They're going to have less prejudice on different people. So my expectation for my students is, firstly, of course, you need to speak fluent Chinese. You need to try your very best on Chinese language learning. One day you're going to master Chinese language very well at a very high level. Secondly, you are a global citizen. You live in a global village. You're willing to communicate with other people from other countries, from other districts, from other cultures. You're going to be a global citizen. Or that's my expectation for all of my students. So that's all. That's my self-introduction video. Thank you for watching. Bye.